The figure versus ground relationship demonstrates how we distinguish an object from its surroundings and focus our attention to that figure. In this example, we see a distinct and separate figure, in this case Sammy's poster, stand out from the background surrounding it, the brick wall. Proximity is one of the Gestalt principles which explains how we group objects together based on their proximity. Because the decorations are clustered close together in 3 different baskets, we perceive them to be in 3 different groups, not as individual decorations. Similarity is another Gestalt principle which explains why we tend to group and perceive similar objects as one. In this example, the flowers and leaves all generally look alike and share similar characteristics, which makes us perceive the flowers as one group, rather than perceiving them each as one separate flower or leaf. The principle of continuity explains how we see patterns and symbols as continuous wholes rather than separate disconnected parts. We are able to read and comprehend the continuous flow of words on the poster rather than only noticing each shape of the letter. Also, we are able to understand the ribbon's continuous shape instead of only seeing the ribbon as individual sections or the shapes it outlines. Connectedness demonstrates how we see connected objects as one rather than individual parts. Because the leaves are all physically linked together, we tend to perceive them as a group rather than individual leaves. Closure relates to how our minds fill in missing information to detect a whole object rather than random parts. In this art example, our minds fill in the white blanks to perceive the face, hair, and arm in the image to give a complete image. Linear perspective is an important part of depth perception which helps our minds perceive distance. In this image, we can see the lines of the floor, ceiling, and lockers converging closer together, so we can see the hallway getting farther away. Interposition is a depth cue which reveals how close or far away an object is. Because the door is obscuring the view of Caitlin and is stacked slightly in front of her, we perceive the door to be in front of Caitlin, therefore closer to us. Relative height demonstrates how the mind perceives height based on placement on our retinal field. In this example, the bottom stairs are lower on our retinal field, so we perceive them as closer. As the stairs get higher, they get higher on our retinal field, so we perceive them as further away. Relative size helps determine the size of an object based on the amount of space it occupies in the retinal field. Because the bubbler takes up more space on the retinal field in comparison to the trash can, which is about the same size as the bubbler, we perceive the bubbler to be closer and the trash can to be farther away. Shape constancy is a type of perceptual constancy which shows how we perceive 2 of the same objects as the same shape regardless of how changing conditions affect how it appears. In the image on the left, we perceive a rectangular door. Despite the changing conditions of the door being only half opened in the image on the right, we still perceive the door to be a constant shape of a rectangle. Size constancy is another kind of perceptual constancy which explains why we perceive 2 objects as the same even if the size on our retinal field varies. Because of the difference in distance, the lockers closer to us have a larger image in comparison to the lockers farther away, but we still perceive the lockers as the same shape. Brightness and color constancy shows how we see an object as the same color regardless of how the amount of light is present. In this image, the bright light casts shadows and changes in color on the hat and bag. We don't perceive the hat or bag to have completely different colors than if we were to take them out of the brightly lit shelf, but recognize that the hat is still green and the bag is still yellow regardless of lighting.